Welcome to Gen Authentic, where we believe that everything you do takes work, whether it's your job, your relationships, your hobbies, and even self-love. That all takes work, and we're here to challenge you to do that work more authentically. We are starting Season 4 off with a bang. Season 3 was all about learning to love me, advocate for myself and my voice. I was real, raw, and cut all the bullshit. I can confidently say that I have grown so much over the course of Season 3 and my recent month-long break to recenter myself and my goals for the podcast. And so Season 4, we're all about doing more. More guests, more focused topics, more actionable tips. So get ready because it's time for us to do some work. Today's episode is dedicated to something I know many of us have experienced at some point in our careers: burnout. Burnout is that feeling of exhaustion, frustration, and just overall disengagement that can set in when we are simply pushing ourselves too hard and not taking the time to take care of ourselves, or feeling disconnected from our work at whole. It's a feeling that can be all-consuming, making it difficult to stay motivated, productive, or even try to maintain engagement in our jobs. So where does this burnout come from? It is directly correlated with a lack of consonance in our lives. You see, finding consonance between your work and your personal life isn't just about feeling happier and more fulfilled. It's about being more productive and effective in your job. When you're burnt out and exhausted, there is no way that you can do your best work. But when you feel engaged, energized, and balanced, you can take on all the new challenges with major gusto. In Lauren Gassner-Otting's book, Limitless, she focuses on what it means to have consonance in your life. Simply put, she states that who we are, what we do, and how we do it all have to be in alignment with each other. And after reading that book twice this year already, I finally understand how to put the parts and pieces of that together in my life. I am always impressed by middle managers and their dedications to their teams and their companies. Nobody will support a broken company like a middle manager trying to make it work for their team. They are typically the ones who said yes to the job before they even knew what the job was. You know the type, the good old fake it till you make it type. Like me, hi, it's me, I'm the problem. I was the reigning queen of saying yes and pretending like I had it all together. Meanwhile, I would go and Google every aspect of my role and keep that from other people because I didn't want people to think that I couldn't handle that opportunity. There was one time in particular when I was on the verge of burnout. I was working long hours, taking on too many projects, and not taking breaks. Sound familiar? One day I was so overwhelmed that I started crying in the middle of a meeting that I was leading. Not my finest moment, I'll admit. But instead of being embarrassed, I decided to be vulnerable and share what was going on with me, with my team, which included leading my team, through a pandemic and processing a not so great divorce. And you know what? They were incredibly supportive and understanding. From that moment on, I realized it's okay to ask for help and to admit I was struggling. Now, I do have to admit, senior leadership did not care for my approach. They thought that it gave a bad perception on the company. Well, breaking news, the company already had a bad perception, and it wasn't because I couldn't handle the workload. At least now I could be honest with my team and not sweep everything under the rug or act as if those unhealthy culture wasn't present. Now, let's be real honest. Clearly, I wasn't on the verge. I was full on burnt out if I'm crying in a meeting that I'm leading. A few weeks after that meeting, a longtime team member called me and said that she was worried about me. She said she wanted to advocate for more support for our team with senior leadership. So what did I do? I transferred to a position in a different department completely. The truth is, no amount of bullshit support in that company was going to change the burnout I was experiencing. Like I said a moment ago, no one fights for a broken company more than a drowning middle manager in hopes that their struggles will improve the environment for their teams. When that team member called me, it showed me that I could no longer be the most effective version of myself in that role because I was so burnt out. And I knew I had to shake things up and so I began this search for the ever so elusive work-life balance. I'm sure many of us have felt the strain of balancing work and personal life, balancing work and who we are as a person at some point in our careers. It's a common struggle, and it's one that really can have serious consequences if it's not addressed in a timely manner. So how can we find that balance? It's not easy, but it's definitely worth the effort. Here are some strategies that we can use on a daily basis to overcome burnout if we find ourselves already struggling deep within its grips. First is set boundaries. We live in a world where we're constantly connected to work through our phones and laptops, but that doesn't mean that we have to be available 24/7. Set clear boundaries for when you're available to work and when you're not. And then here's the big ticket. Actually stick to those boundaries, even when it's tempting to check your email at midnight. I am so thankful that I am no longer tied to my email and Teams chat with my fire extinguisher at the ready. Second, make time for what matters. And I mean what really matters to you. We all have different priorities in our personal lives, whether it's spending time with family, pursuing hobbies, or, volunteering in our communities. So it's important and paramount that you make sure that you are setting aside time for those things that really matter to you and set that boundary to not let work encroach on that time. This is where consonance comes into play. Are we in alignment is what we do, and are we in alignment with our true life goals? Third, I know this is going to come across as cliche, but practice self-care. This gets lost in translation a lot these days. It's easy to put ourselves last when we're busy with work and family responsibilities. But taking care of ourselves is essential to being our best selves. Whether it's getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising regularly, seeking a therapist or mentor, make sure that you are taking care of your own needs first. And finally, don't be afraid to ask for help. Whether it's delegating a task at work or enlisting the help of family and friends, it's okay to ask for help when you need it, or hell, even when you want it. We're all in this together, and there is no shame in admitting that we can't do it all on our own. I challenge you to flip the script on fake it until you make it mentality. I am all about saying yes before you're ready. But what if instead of saying yes and then feeling all alone because we are trying to figure out everything all on our own, why don't we say yes and? This is a great improv game. Go look on YouTube. Yes, and. Yes, I want this opportunity. And these are the areas of support and training that I need to be successful. Yes, I want this amazing change in this career to show my dedication to growth. And I would like your biweekly mentorship to ensure I am finding success in this new opportunity. Just another Brené Brown goodie. Remember that vulnerability is your biggest strength. Now, here's the good news. Burnout is not inevitable. There are steps that we can take to prevent burnout from happening in the first place. So let's talk about this millennial phenomenon, the dreaded Sunday scaries. I still remember the first time I heard this term, and I was like, oh, there's a name for that pit in my stomach I get on Sundays. Even people who are fulfilled in their careers can catch a case of the Sunday scaries. You know what I'm talking about. It's that sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize the weekend is over and you've got to get back to the grind. But what if I told you that you could actually look forward to Mondays? Like, you can. It's true. I promise you. One of the things that helped me stay engaged at work is finding something to look forward to each week. And I do not schedule meetings before 12 p.m. on Mondays. I use that morning time to follow up on emails, create an action plan for the week, and catch up with my colleagues over team chat. This allows me to shift my brain from the weekend to the work more effectively, and it limits starting the week in total chaos. I am so much more productive during the week when I don't start by putting this enormous deliverable on my Monday morning calendar. Next, I always take breaks. So take your breaks during the work week. Go on a walk and unplug for 10 or 15 minutes. Or try mindful meditation to give your mind a break. There's a few apps out there that will really help you be able to do mindful meditation if you've never done it before. I have trouble clearing out my brain. And so this one app, Headspace, really helps you figure out how to meditate if your brain is going a million miles a minute. And for the love of God, do not eat your lunch or breakfast or dinner at your desk. One of the hardest parts of remote working is giving myself permission to eat lunch at the kitchen table and enjoy 30 minutes of TikToks and Audible, catching up on some of my favorite podcasts, whatever. If you are in the office every day and you're not remote and you do eat with a coworker, I want to challenge you to not talk about work during that lunchtime. Ask about each other's families, hobbies, gossip about celebrities, who cares? Just, do not talk about work. Trust me, your brain will thank you. Never underestimate the importance of finding your purpose in your work. As a millennial, personally, we're known for valuing purpose and the meaning in our careers. But that also doesn't mean that we have to change or save the world every single day. Sometimes finding purpose can be as simple as connecting with a customer, collaborating with a colleague, or learning something new. When we can see the impact of our work and feel like we're making a difference, it's easier to stay engaged and motivated. A coworker of mine had a hobby that at first seemed completely unrelated to work. She is an avid gardener, and she had this plot in a community garden, and she would spend her weekends tending to her plants and her flowers. But as we got to know her better, we realized that her love of gardening actually had some surprising benefits for her work life. She was incredibly organized and disciplined. She was able to juggle multiple projects and keep track of deadlines with ease. And she had a keen eye for detail and aesthetics, which helped her create these beautiful presentations and designs. Her passion for gardening also inspired her to bring plants into the office and create this more pleasant, calming work environment. And as more people started to appreciate the benefits of the plants in the natural environment of the workplace, they began to follow her lead and create their own little cute green spaces. So don't be afraid to share your hobbies and your passions with your coworkers, because you never know what might inspire them, and you never know if it's going to benefit others. There is a special kind of magic when we all create space for each other. Now, as I've talked about a lot, I had no desire to rejoin corporate America after being let go of summer 2022. I did not want to be stuck in a situation again, but I realized to be effective in what I want to do in life, I needed and wanted more real-world experiences, just maybe with a little less toxicity. So when I made the decision to go back to my W-2 life, it was important for me that anywhere I worked that I was accepted for me, quirks and all. And not only being accepted, but actually celebrated for being who I was. When I first started at the company I'm working at now, I was a bit nervous about how my coworkers would react to me, how they would react to my idealistic culture views, my rapid fire communication style, my consistent, everlasting feedback, and challenging the status quo. I was nervous that they would view me as maybe unprofessional or immature because I was no longer going to cover my tattoos or dress down to make myself less noticeable. I know I may seem all business when I'm on here, but I am a true left-brained creative at heart. I'm a 34-year-old who constantly rocks some pigtails and a graphic tee. I rock these neon lights in my bedroom with my pink bedspread that is also my office. And I make PowerPoints for everything. Now, the reason I make those PowerPoints is because my ADHD symptoms cause my cognitive connection skills to be a little less effective in front of other people. So I need to utilize those tools to be able to speak on calls and participate the way I do, but they just see some transitions within the PowerPoint. And to my surprise, my passion for culture, my love for graphic tees, and my affinity for PowerPoint utilization transitions are actually a bit of a conversation starter. People would compliment my vibe or what I presented on, and it really helped me connect with my colleagues in a more personal way. In a recent conversation with a coworker, I shared these concerns with her and how proud I was that I actually did show up as myself and that I did this. And she told me that she was really glad that I did it too, because if I was to have hid who I was, I would be doing a disservice to her and everyone in the company. What a freaking compliment. Like, get out of here. So remember, reevaluating your priorities is always an option. You don't have to stay stuck. Give yourself permission to focus on what's truly important to you and who you are as a person. And don't be afraid to seek new challenges. If you're feeling burnt out because you're stuck in a rut or feeling uninspired, seeking out new challenges or opportunities can help reignite your passion in and out of work. You would be surprised to see how much your overall work can improve by filling your cup outside of work. I want to emphasize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to burnout or finding a work-life balance. What works for one person might not work for another. But the important thing to recognize is that burnout is real and a serious issue. And there are steps that can be taken to prevent it and or overcome it. At the end of the day, we all want to feel fulfilled, engaged, and motivated in our work. And by taking care of ourselves, recognizing the signs of burnout, and being proactive in preventing and addressing burnout, when it happens, we really can create this work culture that supports our well-being and our success. I genuinely hope that these tips will help you find consonance, the consonance that you need in your work life to balance and prevent burnout. Remember, it's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about finding what works for you, being kind to yourself along the way, and who knows, maybe you'll even start looking forward to Mondays. Thank you for listening to another episode of Gen Authentic. If something in today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. If you hated it, share it with an enemy. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at Stef Authentically on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, thank you for being the voices of a generation working more authentically through life.